I had always wanted to go camping in California, so when I saw an online deal for a cheap stay at the Big Sur campground, I didn't hesitate to book it. I packed my tent, sleeping bag, flashlight, and some snacks, and drove to the campsite on a sunny Saturday morning. The campsite was beautiful, surrounded by towering redwoods and a clear river. It was also very spacious, with plenty of room for tents and RVs. I checked in at the office, paid the fee, and got a map of the area. I chose a spot near the river, away from the other campers, and set up my tent. I was looking forward to a relaxing weekend in nature. After I settled in, I decided to explore the campground and the nearby trails. I followed the river upstream, enjoying the sound of the water and the birds. I saw some squirrels, deer, and even a raccoon. I felt like I was in a wildlife documentary. I walked for about an hour, until I reached a small waterfall. I sat on a rock and admired the view. It was so peaceful and serene. I was about to head back to my tent, when I heard a loud splash behind me. I turned around and saw a huge black bear emerging from the water. It had caught a fish in its mouth, and was shaking its head to get rid of the excess water. It looked at me with its dark eyes and growled. I froze in fear. I had heard that bears were common in this area, but I had never seen one in person. I didn't know what to do. I remembered reading somewhere that you should never run from a bear, as it would trigger its chase instinct. You should also avoid eye contact, and make yourself look big and loud. But I was too scared to move or make a sound. I just stared at the bear, hoping it would leave me alone. The bear dropped the fish and took a step towards me. It sniffed the air, and licked its lips. It seemed to be interested in me, not the fish. It took another step, and another. It was getting closer and closer. I could see its sharp teeth and claws. I could smell its wet fur and breath. I felt a surge of adrenaline, and decided to make a run for it. I jumped off the rock and sprinted towards the trail. I hoped the bear would not follow me, or that I could outrun it. I ran as fast as I could, dodging the trees and rocks. I looked back, and saw the bear chasing me. It was faster than I thought. It was gaining on me. I screamed for help, but no one heard me. I was alone and doomed. I reached the end of the trail, and saw the campground in the distance. I could see my tent and my car. I was almost there. I ran across the bridge over the river, hoping the bear would not cross it. But it did. It was relentless. It was hungry. It wanted me. I ran into the campsite, hoping to find someone who could help me. But it was empty. Everyone had gone hiking, fishing, or sightseeing. There was no one around. I ran towards my tent, hoping to find something to defend myself with. But it was too late. The bear caught up with me, and tackled me to the ground. It bit my leg, and dragged me to the river. I felt its teeth and claws tearing my flesh. I felt its weight crushing my bones. I felt its breath on my neck. I felt nothing else. But then I heard a loud bang. And another. And another. I opened my eyes, and saw a ranger with a shotgun standing over me. He had shot the bear, and scared it away. He ran to me, and checked my pulse. He called for backup on his radio, and told me to hang in there. He said he had heard my screams, and came to help. He said I was lucky to be alive. He wrapped a bandage around my leg, and lifted me up. He carried me to his truck, and drove me to the nearest hospital. He said I had lost a lot of blood, and needed surgery. He said I would recover, but it would take time. He said I should never go camping alone, especially in bear country. He said I should always carry a bear spray, and make noise when walking in the woods. He said I should be more careful next time. I thanked him for saving my life. I apologized for being stupid. I promised to follow his advice. I realized how close I had come to death. I realized how much I had to live for. I realized how much I loved camping. I realized I would never go camping again. I had always wanted to go camping in Florida, so when I saw an online ad for a cheap campsite near the Everglades National Park, I booked it without hesitation. The name of the campsite was Gator's Den, and it sounded like a fun place to spend a weekend. I packed my tent, sleeping bag, flashlight, and some snacks, and drove to the campsite on a Friday afternoon. The campsite was not what I expected. It was a small, muddy patch of land surrounded by tall grass and swampy water. There were no other campers, No facilities, no signs, nothing. Just a rusty metal gate with a faded sign that read, "Gator's Den, enter at your own risk." I felt a chill run down my spine, but I shrugged it off. I had already paid for the campsite, and I was not going to let a little dirt and mosquitoes ruin my adventure. I parked my car near the gate, grabbed my backpack, and walked into the campsite. I found a spot that looked relatively dry and flat, and set up my tent. I checked my phone, but there was no signal. I decided to explore the area a bit, hoping to find some wildlife or scenic views. I followed a narrow trail that led deeper into the swamp, keeping an eye out for any signs of alligators. I walked for about half an hour, but I did not see anything interesting. Just more grass, water, and bugs. I was about to turn back, when I heard a loud splash behind me. I turned around, and saw a huge alligator emerge from the water, snapping its jaws at me. I screamed, and ran as fast as I could, hoping to reach my tent before the beast caught up with me. I ran for what seemed like an eternity, but I could not shake off the alligator. It was faster than me, and it was gaining on me. I could hear its heavy breathing, its scaly tail whipping the air, its teeth clacking together. I was running out of breath, and out of hope. I knew I was going to die. I reached the edge of the campsite, and saw my tent in the distance. It was my only chance. I sprinted towards it, hoping to find some shelter or weapon inside. I reached the tent, and dove inside, zipping it shut behind me. I looked around, but there was nothing useful. Just my sleeping bag, my flashlight, and my snacks. I grabbed the flashlight, and turned it on, hoping to scare the alligator away with the light. I heard the alligator outside, circling the tent, sniffing the air, looking for a way in. I could see its shadow through the thin fabric, its massive body blocking the sunlight. I was trapped, and I knew it. I started to cry, and prayed for a miracle. Suddenly, I heard a loud bang, followed by another and another. I heard the alligator roar in pain, and then fall silent. I heard a voice shout, "Are you okay in there?" I recognized the voice. It was the owner of the campsite, the one who had posted the online ad. He had a shotgun in his hand, and he had just saved my life. I unzipped the tent, and crawled out, shaking and sobbing. He ran towards me, and hugged me. He apologized for the alligator, and explained that he had set a trap for it, but it had escaped. He said he had heard my scream, and followed the trail of blood. He said he was sorry for the campsite, and offered to refund my money. He said he would drive me to the nearest hospital, and call the police. I thanked him, and followed him to his car. He helped me get in, and started the engine. He smiled at me and said, "Don't worry, you're safe now. I'm sorry you had such a bad experience at Gator's Denver. It's usually a very peaceful place, except for the occasional serial killer." He laughed, and drove away. I felt a surge of panic, and looked at him with horror. He was joking, right? He had to be joking. He was not a serial killer. He was just a friendly campsite owner who had saved my life. He was not going to kill me. He was not. I tried to calm myself, and looked out the window. Maybe he was just trying to lighten the mood with a dark joke. Maybe he was not serious. Maybe he was. I saw a sign that read, "Welcome to Everglades National Park." We were driving into the park, not out of it. We were going deeper into the swamp, not to the hospital. We were going to his trap, not to the police. I realized he was not joking. He was a serial killer. He had lured me into his campsite, and let the alligator attack me. He had shot the alligator, and pretended to be my hero. He had taken me to his car, and locked the doors. He had driven me to his killing ground, and laughed at my fate. I was not safe. I was in danger. I was going to die. I screamed, and tried to open the door, but it was locked. I grabbed the shotgun, and tried to shoot him, but it was empty. I punched him, and tried to take the wheel, but he was stronger. He pushed me back, and hit me hard. He said, "Shut up, you're ruining the fun. I'm sorry you had such a good experience at Gator's Denver." It's usually a very scary place, especially for the occasional victim. He laughed and drove faster. I cried and prayed for a miracle.